and a pathway to inner peace. So the Ashtanga system, which I studied with Pattabhi Jois, and now I continue to study with his grandson Sharath Jois in Mysore in the south of India. It's a sequence. It's actually a set of 6 sequences. There's the primary, the intermediate, and then there are 4 advanced sequences, advanced A, B, C, and D. And it's a set of sequences which involve a lot of repetition. So it's not something that you can learn really quickly. It takes a very long time to learn. There's a lot of repetition, and the aim is that it's a practice of perfection. So if you can't do something, you have to take your time to learn it. And that means practicing daily. That means practicing for a couple of months, for a couple of years, for a couple of decades. It takes a long time to learn this process. As I said, it's a practice of perfection. And it involves a set sequence. So it's not something that you can pick and choose different postures. Today I'll do this, today I'll do that. No, it's something that you must start from the beginning and follow the sequence. You don't have to do the whole sequence every day. You can do a shorter sequence, but you must follow the sequence. If you do it shorter, you don't change the postures. And it also involves a particular gazing point, your drishti. And in addition, it also involves the vinyasa. So vinyasa means the correct placement or the breath and movement coordination. And this vinyasa is very important to create strength of your nervous system. So in the sequence, you will have the vinyasa, which is the movement between each posture where you're stable. So that's called the sthiti. So if you look at Surya Namaskar A, you would have Ekam, inhale, raise your hands up, is the first vinyasa. Dvay, exhale, coming forward, is the second vinyasa. And so in Surya Namaskar A, there would be 9 vinyasas or 9 separate breath and movement coordinations. And then, of course, you have the sthiti, where you're in downward dog, and you would hold that for 5 breaths, but there's no movement. And it's in this vinyasa that is fantastic for strengthening your nervous system. Now, we can't see your nervous system, just as people sitting or standing in daily life, you can't see your nervous system with your eyes. But when you start to teach, you're able to see the nervous system of your students. So you can see how stable they are in their bodies. You can see how stable they are in their breath. So when somebody has a weaker nervous system, their breath is irregular and quite weak. When their nervous system is stronger, it is more regular with your breath and a little bit stronger, and it's much more stable. And this stability in your nervous system is actually what enables us to be able to confront the things that are problematic for us, confront our blockages. So we all have blockages on certain levels. So the blockage could be on our physical level, our emotional level, or our mental level. And this is normal. This is what human beings are like. We all have problems and blockages. But when you have a strong nervous system, and that strength again is created from this vinyasa, it enables us to look at what our blockage is without being scared and without freaking out. So if you have a problem on your physical level in your asana, if your nervous system is weak and you're not able to, say, for example, your hips are tight, and you get to a posture that involves your hips to open a little bit, if your nervous system is weak, then you won't want to stay in it. It will be, oh, it's too painful. No, I can't do this on a physical level. When your nervous system is stronger, you're able to say, it's discomfort, it's painful, but I'm going to breathe through this. It's not going to make me stop. I'm going to spend more time in this posture and just breathing, even though there is an element of discomfort or pain. It's not overwhelming you because your nervous system is stronger. On an emotional level, of course, each of these postures represents something greater than just what is happening to our physical body, because the emotional and the physical body are so interconnected. So on an emotional level, this posture will be representing a certain blockage in your emotional level. So you might physically be working with your hips, but that hips is representing a certain emotion. And again, when you have a strong nervous system, you're able to sit with that discomfort of what that emotion is. Is it a sadness? Is it an anxiety? Is it then connected to a particular life event? Is it a memory? Then we're moving more into your mind. And the idea is that when your nervous system is stronger, then you're able to spend greater time working on how to release that blockage on your physical level, release that blockage on your emotional level, or release that blockage on your mental level. And that's why it's so important to have a strong nervous system. And that strong nervous system comes from the repetition of the vinyasa. When we're able to spend time with our blockages, we're able to see ways in which we can push through. So in ways we can release some of that blockage, so we become more open in the body, relaxed in your emotional space, or opening more in your mind. So when we're able to do that, that's when we're able to move forward. We're able to expand the body, the mind, the emotions. And that's what ultimately we're wanting to do in yoga, is deblock. And this then, of course, is a pathway to inner peace, because we have less blockage, we're more open, we're more free, we're more expanded. And again, I said this is because of the vinyasa. But like all good things, they don't happen overnight. So it's not like you can do one yoga class with a vinyasa and then everything is fixed. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Yoga is a process of the more you put in, the more you get back. And this strengthening of your nervous system is something that requires consistent, regular, long-term practice. So there are many benefits, of course, of yoga from just the beginner's perspective and from taking a class here and there. But this, what I'm talking about to strengthen your nervous system, comes from that long-term regular practice. And but again, there's a lot of challenge in this. It takes courage to look at your blockages on whatever level it is, but the rewards are there because you can actually release and let go. The practice of continually looking at your blockages as well, what happens is one of two things. One is, yes, the blockages become unblocked, and that's a nice thing. But then again, in the sequence of Ashtanga Yoga, it just means you get given another problem, another asana, a more challenging asana, and that gives you something else to work on. Of course, not everybody can do all of the physical asanas, so that doesn't matter. It's the effort that you're making to try and deblock. It's the effort you're making to try and expand yourself. And one of two things happens. One is that you deblock, you expand. The other is that you don't, but your acceptance of where you are increases, which is, of course, the ultimate, more so than gaining more physical postures, is that acceptance. I'm doing my best. I'm making an effort. I'm not giving up, but I'm looking to accept myself where I am. And it's this very fine balance, because I see students give up or get frustrated because they can't achieve what they're trying to do physically, and then they give up, and it's like, no, then you will never benefit. You have to keep on trying, even though there's challenge, even though there's struggle. And with that becomes this huge amount of self-acceptance, which is also ultimately a massive form of self-love. So if you're able to look at your problems and not give up and accept where you are, you're loving yourself. And again, your love of yourself is because of your inner peace. I wanted to make a little analogy here, which I do with my students. Of course, I'm here in France, and in Europe we eat a lot of pasta. I know it's not quite so in India. I'm trying to think of an analogy. In pasta, if you think of spaghetti, when it's not cooked, when it's dry, so it's very, very hard and it's brittle, so you can snap it really, really easily. This is like a nervous system that is very weak. So any kind of, you can't look at your problems. You will freak out. You get panicked. You get scared very easily. It upsets you too easily. But when you have this consistent, regular practice through vinyasa, through breath work, and again, I'm using the Ashtanga system here from Mysore, from Sharath Joyce and Patabi Joyce as my main example. But I realize that there are many different forms of yoga as well, which use breath work, which also will then contribute to a stronger nervous system. But my main point of reference is the Ashtanga system. So when you have a strong nervous system through consistent, regular practice and breath work, your nervous system becomes more like the chapati dough before you cook your chapati. So you can move it, and it's very pliable, and you can stretch it and pull it apart. And that's a really healthy, strong nervous system. And that means we can have our problems, we can confront our problems, and we don't freak out, we don't break, we don't get stressed, we don't panic. It's not overloading. It's a problem, it's a challenge, it's not what we want necessarily, but it doesn't overwhelm us, it doesn't consume us. And so that's what we're wanting through this consistent practice, is a strong, healthy nervous system that puts us in a place that positions us so that we're able to take a really good look at our problems, what's inside of us, what's blocking us. So there's this idea in yoga generally, but also in Ashtanga, that in our true self, in our true essence, at our core, inside of us, is this pure, many people say many different words. It's God, it's Krishna consciousness, it's the universal energy. For me, it's pure love. It's pure unconditional love. And that's completely inside of us, always. But we don't always connect with that. And through the process of yoga, and again, this is not something you get from one class, this is something you get from continual practice, we're able to reach that place and feel that inner peace, that pure love, more and more often, and for a longer time each time we touch that. But what stops us from being able to connect with that always, permanently, is these blockages. And these blockages are on all of our levels, our blockages on our physical, on our emotional, and our mental. So we're de-blocking and to connect with that pure source of unconditional love. Now, the Ashtanga method, because of its sequential method, it means that we can't jump postures, we can't do lots of different postures out of order. So it's this idea of perfection, that we are looking at one blockage. And again, like I said, some people will never move beyond that. It's not about the physical, it's about that turning inward. It's about looking at your problems, confronting what challenges you. That is the method, not about being able to do advanced asana technique. That can be because you are genetically predisposed. It can be because you're young and your body is open and strong. It can be because you've played different sport before. That's a bonus and it's a wonderful thing. But the main aim is how you can mentally react to your challenges when you're confronted with them. Because even if you've got the most incredible Olympic gymnastic body, there's going to be something that confronts you. And it's how you react to that challenge that is really important. And so in a way, also the system of Ashtanga Yoga with its sequence, what we're really doing is to progress, for want of another word, to move forward. You're actually needing to look at what is your weakest part. So by isolating what your weakest part is, and you're strengthening that weakest part, then you're able to bring overall balance to all of you. So when we do the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, it's a practice that we do for 6 days a week. We generally take 1 day a week for rest. In the past, it used to be that we used to rest on a Saturday, but now things have changed. We rest on a Sunday. But of course, it's not so important. We also rest with the full moon and the new moon. But there's this consistent practice. So when you are getting up in the morning, it's like you're spending time with yourself and you're looking every morning at the thing that really challenges you. And that takes a lot of strength of mind, because it's not like you're getting in saying, oh, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to look for my pleasure. I'm going to do whatever makes me happy. It's not instant gratification. It's, okay, I'm going to take a look at myself this morning, and 6 days a week, I'm going to look at what it is that I struggle with. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time working on that thing in my life that I struggle with. And again, it could be physical, it could be tight shoulders, it could be tight hips, it could be tight hamstrings. So it could be on a physical level, or it could be an emotional thing. It's something, a relationship with somebody in your life. It could be something about being able to express yourself. It could be that you're feeling too shy. Whatever it is, by using the same movement, the same sequence, the same repetition, you've got to find some kind of pace with that weakness before you can move forward. And that is why it's a practice of perfection. And it's a practice of perfection. It's a practice of repetition. But in that, you're bringing greater balance, and you're bringing greater balance to your body. You're bringing greater balance to your emotions, and you're bringing greater balance to your mind. And that brings me on to the mind, because in this practice of Ashtanga Yoga, it's a form of Raj Yoga, which of course is mind control yoga. So again, this repetition of the sequence, bringing you back to the same point, is focusing your mind. So our minds are all over the place, of course, but by doing the same movements, the same sequence, bringing us back to that same focus, our mind starts to become more stable, more focused, even just for that little bit while you're in the room, in your class. And it's through this focusing of your mind and using your drishti, or a certain gazing point, that we're then able to let go of these thoughts, because we're able to focus and breathe, and we're focusing your mind so much that there's no room for all the extra chitter-chatter that goes on. So while you're there in the room, while you're focusing on your posture, you have to keep a really, really steady gaze. And in that process, you're able to stop your thoughts about what it is that you were eating, what it is that you're having a discussion about, an exam that you have, an argument that you had with a parent. These things, you can't focus on them when you're focusing your mind. So then, again, this repetition makes your mind more and more calm. And again, of course, sometimes as you are repeating these sequences and these postures, you do start to get better physically with these postures. So when these postures become easier for you physically, of course, what happens is your mind begins to wander. So that's not the purpose. We want your mind back here in the room on this one focus. So that's when you add more challenging physical postures. So as these postures become, as it becomes easier for you physically, the postures become more difficult. And the difficulty then becomes to focus the mind. So when you're given, it's like a puzzle that you're given. So you think of a child gets an easy puzzle because they're younger. So a 3-year-old puzzle is very, very easy, big pieces. But then as a 10-year-old, the pieces are smaller and there are more pieces. And then as an adult, the pieces are much smaller, much bigger, many, many more pieces. And that's the same idea with the Ashtanga practice and the sequence of progressively harder and harder physical postures. With the eyes, it looks like it's just for the body, but it's actually for the mind, to keep your mind steady and focused. And again, when things are too easy physically, the mind starts to think. The mind starts to wonder, what am I going to have for lunch? Okay, what's that person doing over there? Yet when the mind is fully engaged, it has no time to think about the person next to you in the room, or what you're going to do this afternoon, or what you're going to do on the weekend. So your mind has to be engaged, and it's being engaged by the use of these more and more challenging postures. And it is through this repetition, through the engagement of your mind, that we're able to be more present. We're able to be here in this moment. Because as the postures become more physically challenging, we have to be right here present to be able to do the posture. And in many cases, if it's about balance, we really have to focus our mind. Very good for concentration, the balancing postures. And that, of course, when we're present, when our mind is right here in the room, that's when we're able to break free of patterns in our mind, and we can move forward. So we're able to let go of mental habits that no longer support us. And that's a really, really big thing. And of course, when we let go of mental habits that don't support us, we're freeing ourselves. And of course, this gives us more inner peace as well. So we're continually using this repetition. We're focusing our mind. We're letting go of these old habits. And we're creating more and more stability within ourselves. And sorry, another thing I wanted to talk about, the way in which this tradition of Ashtanga Yoga is practiced is it's an individual practice in a group. Sorry. So traditionally, you don't have a teacher demonstrating. The teacher will give you your sequence and you memorize and you do the practice up until a particular point. And the teacher can come and adjust you, but you're working on your own. And it's an individual practice in a group. So there'll be many different students in the room doing your own practice. You may have heard the term Mysore style, maybe not. Mysore is just the city in the south of India where Ashtanga Yoga has been practiced a lot with Sharath and Pattabhi Jois. But the style doesn't really mean anything. All it really means is that students are in the group, all working on their different sequence. So what the benefit of this is, it enables a number of different students at different levels to all practice together. So you can have a beginner and you can have an experienced or an advanced student practicing side by side, because each of them will be working on a different phase of their sequence. The other benefit is that you're following your own breath, which of course is really, really important, because the breath is the key between your mind and your body. So if everybody is all breathing together, trying to follow the same one, it is less effective. But when you're practicing individually, you're working with your own breath, and you're able to go deeper into your physical practice, deeper into the emotional aspect of your practice as well. And so when you're working individually, it is a time where you're actually able to be very honest with yourself. You don't have to keep up appearances. You're not trying to be the person next to you. You're not trying to copy what the teacher is doing. You're working with yourself. It's a time of honesty. And there's such a connection, a mind, body, emotion connection, that then when you're doing this same repetition of the body, that's when your emotions start to come up, and you're able to look and you're able to see this particular posture is representing a particular emotion. I'm stuck in my knees, but that's actually a manifestation of an emotion. And it is through this, again, consistent long-term practice that you're able to understand, where is this blockage coming from? Is it coming from the physical? Is it coming from the emotion? And then you're able to deal with it. Thank you. And then, of course, when we do this regular, consistent practice, we're able to connect with ourselves. We're turning inwards and connecting with ourselves. And then when we connect with ourselves, it's an amazingly beautiful thing that we connect with something that is actually much bigger than us. And then when we connect with something that is much bigger than us, and again, I said that's the deep locking process. We're deep locking and we're connecting with, if you call it God, if you call it Krishna consciousness, if you call it Shiva consciousness, if you call it universal energy, you don't have to put a name on it. You can just feel it. And again, what I've experienced is this feeling of unconditional love. And that's what we all have. But when you make this connection, there's this beautiful feeling of inner peace, of absolute inner peace, because you're connected, you're whole. And you're whole by yourself. It's not coming from external praise. It's not about a parent giving you your approval. It's not about your boss giving you approval. It's not about getting money. It's not about fame. It's not about anything external. It's a totally inward turning journey. And you're making yourself complete and whole and connecting from within. And it's a really, really beautiful space to be in. And that's why we continue to practice, is to be in that space for longer and longer. And it's a beautiful feeling, because it's like this duality that happens. We are completely alone. We're turning completely inwards and looking at ourselves. Yet at the same time, we're connecting to something else that's far greater than us. So it's this feeling of, I'm completely alone, but absolutely not alone at all. So it sounds strange. You're alone, but you're never lonely. You're completely and utterly connected. And that's a really, really beautiful, peaceful place to be in. And something even greater is, I just checked my notes, when we feel that we are connected, when we feel that we're connected with something, this gives us a source of strength. And it enables us to feel whatever we do in the outward world, we're not alone. We have strength from feeling we are connected within. And this is beautiful because this gives us then courage. And this courage we can use to go and take risks in our life. We can go and we can make decisions not based on the external world. We can make decisions which feel right for us, regardless of what other people think of us. And this enables us to make the most beautiful choices in life. And it can be from simple things. When you're feeling connected within, connected to something greater than yourself, and you say, okay, I'm a student, I want to be a hairdresser, but my family want me to be an engineer. When you feel inside connection, that gives you strength and courage to follow your dreams, to be a hairdresser and go, I know my family want me to be an engineer, I want to be a hairdresser. And following that feeling inside, you're not alone, it gives you courage. So in life, there are so many times that we're influenced negatively by the opinions and thoughts of others. But it's being able to connect deeply within, connecting with yourself, listening to yourself, that you're able to have courage to take steps forward. Which of course, to enable you also to take steps forward into the unknown. That's the scary part. And when we listen outwardly, that's when we are motivated by fear and pressure. And then, of course, we do things which don't feel good for us and ultimately don't make us happy. And ultimately, we suffer because we have less inner peace. But what we want to do is we want to move in the direction of greater inner peace. And we want to have that courage, have that strength to move into the unknown. And it's huge. It's really easy to speak these words, but it takes an enormous amount of courage and faith to be able to walk confidently into the unknown, into the future, to make decisions where you're not sure of the outcome. And it's easier to do this when you have a strong foundation, when you have a strong connection within. And this is one of the most magical parts of doing yoga of any form, of any particular technique, but particularly as I've experienced the Ashtanga method, being able to do, again, consistent practice, working with your breath, working with your mind, regular long-term practice. And this is one of the most beautiful parts, is that it enables you to listen to yourself. It enables you to trust more your intuition and to move forward in the future, taking decisions where you don't know what the outcome's going to be. I don't know what this is going to be like, but I trust, I feel it's the right thing for me. And that's an amazingly beautiful gift to have this. Yeah. And I can talk a lot more. I'm just not sure what everybody would like to listen to. It's very interesting times being able to talk just to the computer. But I hope what you can take from this is that you see from the outside external perspective that yoga in many forms, especially nowadays with lots of social media, you can see a picture, and it can be a pretty picture, and it can be very inspiring and very motivating. But the real benefit that you get is not from a pretty picture. It's from regular, consistent practice. And of course, knowing, having a good teacher to guide you is, of course, important, because you can only be as good as what your teacher shows you. And your teacher needs to put you back onto the right path. We can do so much ourselves, but we need guidance from people who have been there before us to motivate us, to correct bad habits, and to extend us beyond where we can be ourselves. Otherwise, we get caught too much on chasing our pleasure and not so much at looking all the work that we have to do, looking at all the challenges and obstacles we face. And there's a time and a place to unroll your yoga mat and do whatever you feel makes you happy and pleases you. There's a time and a place for that. It's nice to do that. It's fun to do that. But the real benefits come from focusing your mind back into those challenges, from taking a good look at not what gives you pleasure, but actually what challenges you, because that real peace of mind comes from knowing the thing that's your greatest challenge is actually less big. You know this as well. It's as students, you have projects and you have assignments and you have exams. And so at the end of the day, you come home or on the weekend, just like, oh, what do I want to do? Oh, I want to go and watch a movie, or I want to go and play some sport. But you know, actually, something inside of you is not going to really rest until you've gone and you've finished that project, or you've made some work on that project. It's the same idea with these obstacles that we have in our mind and our body and our emotions. We can unroll the yoga mat and we can do lots of interesting postures, and they can be fun, but we're not necessarily digging deeper into the philosophical part of the yoga practice until we spend time on the things that challenge us. And that's where the real beauty lies. Not doing more of what comes naturally, not doing more of what naturally gives us pleasure. It's about looking at what challenges us and making it less of a challenge, because we have this fear for looking at the things that challenge us. But we can take away some of that fear and make it less scary by looking at it. But of course, to do that, we need a strong nervous system, because otherwise we're just too full of fear. We run away. Another analogy of looking at our obstacles as opposed to just looking at what makes us happy and gives us pleasure is, of course, I'm a mom. My daughter is 6 years old. And so when I get her to eat, of course, she wants to eat all the things with sugar. She wants to have her ice cream. She wants to have the chocolate. She wants to have all these fun things. But actually, even though she wants it, it's not what's going to give her greater overall balance and happiness. I know when she eats her vegetables, when she eats her brown rice, when she eats all those really healthy things, her emotions are going to be much more stable. Her energy levels are going to be much more stable. And overall, that is what makes her happier. That's what makes her more peaceful. Her instant gratification of eating what she wants to right here, right now, isn't going to give her greatest happiness. And I think that's a good point as well that I'm trying to make here about the yoga and the yoga practice. And again, this could be any form of yoga practice that you have. It's not instant gratification. It's not right here, right now, what can I do to make me happiest? It's about long-term commitment and engagement and looking at the things that scare you most. Because when you look at the things that scare you most, you realize that you have nothing to be afraid of. And that's when you replace that fear with love. And that self-love, that love that you can give yourself. And that is what really, really gives us lots and lots of inner peace. Thank you very, very much. It's been a delight to be here with you today. I'm really honored to be sharing you my experiences. And if you have any questions at all, please get in contact with, it's SPADE, I think, at the lovely Professional University in Punjab. So really get in touch with them. I'm very, very happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have a question like why, how does yoga help us in our creativity?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?